So if you use Manus and you love Manus, but sometimes it's super frustrating, it can't give you the output that you want, it's forgetting things, this video is for you. I'm going to show you exactly why it's happening and how to solve it. Okay. So real quick, if you guys don't know who I am, my name is Ryan Ogan. I'm the founder of MoneyMake Marketing. We generated $3.55 million cash collected revenue for our clients in 2025. In 2026, we're already around 3.2-ish million so far this year in cash collected revenue for our clients. Our strategies absolutely print for our clients. They absolutely love us, and we have a small team. So we always are using LLMs, and we use all of them. Manus, OpenAI, Claude, Manus ChatGPT, Claude, Grok. We use them all. Perplexity. I even use Hermosi AI sometimes. And so my favorite LLM though is Manus. And the reason I like Manus so much is because it's credit-based and it's also an agent. So it can do things more beyond what a traditional Claude agent or Claude LLM could actually do. And it's built on Claude, so it just has more accesses and abilities. It's a little more expensive, but it can do a lot of things. Now, the thing about Manus is, and any of your LLMs, if you feel like it's forgetting things or that it's just not doing things that you want it to be doing and it's just frustrating, you're sitting there like slamming your keyboard, which I do all the time, and you're voice noting and it's just not picking up the voice notes properly. What's happened is something that these AI creators, the AI godfathers, have deemed the context window. Okay, so every LLM has a context window. Every AI tool has a context window. And what that is, every time you submit a prompt, the context window gets submitted with it. And the context window is just giving it context on that prompt, so you don't have to re-explain everything over and over. Essentially, the biggest frustration with AI right now is getting it up to speed so it can actually help you. Think of AI right now. It's like a new employee that just doesn't know your business at all. They don't have any context. So essentially what you're gonna have to do with that new employee is train them. And what is training and educating them on the SOP really mean? It's giving them context so they can follow those SOPs. It's giving them the skills, it's giving them education. And that's essentially what we have to do with the AI. Now, every single time that we teach an employee, our brains, we naturally just learn and store information. We can learn, we have the ability to learn, right? AI, we have to install that. And that's essentially what all these AI engineers have been working on. So there's something called the context window. Every time we submit a prompt, the context window submits behind that prompt. And the context window, unfortunately, as of now, it has limits because power infrastructure is not there yet. So there's a lot of power and computing and costs that come with every single prompt. And so these AI startups and these AI companies, they need to be profitable. They're not profitable yet, by the way, but the context window has limits. And so what I'm trying to say is when a Manus or another LLM, when they approach that context window, they do something that I cannot believe, but it makes sense. It makes perfect sense, but it's still so frustrating. They just compact everything. And so what that means is all this little information that you see on my screen here, my prompts and then its responses all get deleted. They get shrunk down. Now, the things that don't are the markdown files and the skills that exist across Manus. So this is a test markdown file I have right here. Markdown files, if you use Manus, you know what a markdown file is. It oftentimes will put a lot of outputs in these markdown files. And then skills they are essentially the system learns on how to do things and how to analyze things and what to do, when to do them. Their skills are essentially SOP and it reaches across tasks. So markdown files are within each task, and then skills are actually overarching across all tasks. And so essentially the way you want to do this with Manus, and this is any other LLM too, like Grok has this, Claude has this, they're just called different things. ChatGPT has this, they're just called different things. I don't know if Perplexity does, but I imagine they do. So they're just called different things. But essentially the way you have to navigate your information, the context window compacting on your information is you need to have a markdown file storage system. So this has to happen within each LLM. And then you need to have a skill on having your AI LLM put information into these markdown files that's relevant, that if the window compacts, it still doesn't lose everything. So the skill then also needs to say, whenever I submit something to you, go to this markdown file and get all the information and then come back to it. So you need to have ins into these, you need to have a skill that puts the correct information into the correct markdown files. Then you need a skill that tells it to read each particular markdown file that you need and then go into it. So essentially what you need to do is you need to have a file system, a markdown file system in each of your tasks that are relevant to the things that you use that particular task for. That's essentially what you need to do. If it sounds like a lot of work, you just can prompt it to set up this whole file system for you. And you can prompt it to set up these skills for you. So it's not that hard. So essentially just an example for you. This is a markdown file. The way we do it, we have a task that sets up for each client. And we have markdown files for a client profile, ideal client market. We have lead responses. We have content ideas. We have do not contact lists. Those are like a bunch of different markdown files that we have in there. And we have skills that say when we prompt things that are important on this category, put it into the markdown file and update it so it's a running update. And the skill does it for me automatically. So once you set up these files, you're good to go. And then once you have the skill set up, it puts it into those markdown files. So now it reads the important things in the markdown files, and you don't ever have to think about this again. The skill is just going to take over and do all the markdown updates that you need to have done. So now your AI is finally getting better with time. Otherwise, if you don't do this, it doesn't know to save it to a markdown file. It's like a huge thing. Manus team, if you're watching this, you should just do this automatically. You should just do this automatically, and your users would absolutely freaking love you. But if you're not saving it down to markdown files, you're risking your information getting compacted, and then it will just forget and not know what it needs. And that's just like truly, when we lost a full database for our client, and I was just like beside myself. It took me probably like 50 hours, and I just lost in that 50 hours and maybe 100,000 Manus credits, which is $10K or $1,000. I don't know which one it is. But so essentially you have a bunch of your markdown files, each category in whatever task you're using. Then you have a test skill that reaches across every single one of your tasks. You only really have to set it up once. And the skill puts everything into each markdown file that you need. You also have another skill that when you prompt for this particular thing to go and read through it, sort through all the markdown files before and get the relevant information that it needs in that. So what this does is it helps your LLM run a lot smoother. I'm not saying create like 1 million files at once. I'm just saying create 3 or 4 different files within a task. If you have too many files in one task, I imagine that would get close to the context window. And I also don't think you want to save everything that you put in a task into a markdown file, because then you're going to just blow up your context window with a file that's too large. So you have to have that skill when it puts new information into a markdown file. You have to make sure that it's relevant information and deserves to be in that markdown file. So that's essentially how to do this. And if you do this properly, you are now going to have a lean machine that is getting smarter every single time that you use it. And then now we can go to phase 2. So phase 2, this is like the secret stuff. You can then have, like, you can schedule tasks. You can schedule tasks within Manus, but I hate the task scheduler within Manus because it doesn't let you put the scheduler within the actual Manus task. So what I actually do is I use N8N and I use the Manus API and then the task ID. I just do an HTTP through N8N. I schedule a task and it just goes API and it schedules the prompt. And so what I can do is I can now schedule Manus to go out there and research and get smarter on its own and then update the markdown files with best practices for that particular client or news or this, that, or the other. And then it goes and updates those markdown files with relevant information. And then when I prompt it, it already has the information and it's good to go. So like you can then now be getting your agent smarter every single day while you're just staying stupid, essentially. So that's how we're using AI, and that's how we're using Manus specifically. If you're not doing this, like somebody else already figured it out and their AI agent is going to be so much smarter than yours, it's going to be scary. I would definitely recommend you definitely get your LLM going, figure out your file system, figure out your SOPs and your skill system and how when it compacts, like what information's at risk, and just get around that and just make sure that you're doing a very good job and you have good hygiene with AI to make sure that you're giving it the right information. It's running very clean. Then you can go to phase 2 where you're scheduling posts or scheduling research tasks, essentially, where sending it out into the universe to go find specific information that will be relevant to each markdown file so you can consistently update your SOPs and best practices and then whatever you really need. That's going to be fantastic for everybody that's watching this video. I have 10 subscribers, but I deserve way more. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Hope you enjoyed it. And if it was useful, comment below and just say what's up. All right. Thanks. See ya.